Hello and welcome back to Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore. In this entire series too, we've been going through the different free sets of modules that you can download under different brand names as they're called for VCV Rack. And we're going to spend a few episodes now on the shebang modules. This episode will be on the Stochastic Sequencer Grid. Very interesting module. In fact, there's a lot of interesting modules under this brand. Basically, I want to keep the episodes a little bit more concise, so I'm going to be doing basically like one module per episode now for a little bit. And let me know in the comment section if you like this new way of doing things. So anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so I have a test patch that I put together, and I actually released this as a short yesterday, and basically I had fun making this, so I'm going to play a little bit of it for you, and then we'll get into this grid here. I'll basically use the same sounds, but start a whole new grid on it so you can see how this thing works. So let me fade it in here. Okay, so now that you've heard that a little bit, what I'm going to do, zoom in here a bit. Basically, I use the macro oscillators here as my sound generators. Remember, these are from Audible Instruments, another free brand, and they're really cool. Got a kick, somewhat of a snare sound, another drum sound, and then lastly a pluck sound. So I'm using those as my sounds, but I think a good way of learning this, which is what the episode's about, the Stochastic Sequencer Grid, is by just selecting it, deleting it, and then we're going to put it in again. It's right here. And as you see, the brand name for it is shebang. I think that's how you pronounce it because you got a hashtag there in the middle. SHA hashtag BANG exclamation point. But in any case, I've been playing around with a number of these modules from this brand, and they're really quite cool. All right, so just so when the time comes we do hear things, let me just turn the volume back up. Well, that's probably a pluck that's just going on there. In fact, what I'll do is for now, just disconnect this. I got a delay here, VCV delay, just to add a little bit of excitement to it. So anyway, let's take a look at this grid here. And I'll zoom in one more time here. I'll have to go up and down a little bit just to see it all, but here we go. Now, this is color-coded with 4 different colors: purple, blue, like a cyan, and red. And you basically have 4 sets of controls up here. You have 4 sets of controls down here. You have 4 CV outs here, and you have 4 gate outs. So really, it's like meant to drive 4 different instruments. They could be pitched instruments or they could be percussion. It's really up to you, and there's a lot of dynamic uses for this. Over here is where you can start the sequence and stop it. I'll stop it there for one moment. There's also a reset button that resets everything back to starting positions. And you do have a speed control here, a tempo control. And then I believe this is an input for the reset whenever you want to reset back to the beginning. An external, I believe this is external clock. So that is how that works. But for now, I'm just going to start here and use the speed control here. So we don't need an external clock. All right, let's say, for example, red. You see how red's placed here, cyan here, blue and purple up here. They're each in their four corners, in other words. Now, the paths that they take around this grid are what you can define using the controls up here. And they're individuated. So, like for red, it's set with this dial. Like if we were to zoom in, you'll see a second mouse cursor appear. The big one is actually me. You see it's set for 4. And what will happen, I am going to turn the tempo down a little bit so you can visually see it more easily. I'm going to start it here, and what you're going to see is each of these colors, they're all set to 4, and they all have the same path, basically, that they take, which is basically a linear path. The 4 means this red is going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. At the same time, green will go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Purple will go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and blue will go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So being set at 4, they all will share a square. Now these squares are where you can define a number of things. But since I'm talking about paths right now, I'm just going to press play, and so we can see that. Yeah, I had turned the tempo down maybe more than I should have. But you see there, red's going across the screen. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let me reset it. Let's hook this up to an instrument so we can actually hear some sound. I'll make red my kick drum. Now, color coding, you can either go along with their color codes for the different instruments, but I think for now I am going to stick with my color coding. Now, this is a gate out, but you got to figure, depending on what instrument you're using, are you going to use an envelope generator with the gate input that you could use to shape the amplitude of the sound and the trigger, an attack, decay, sustain, release, for example. Because these, some of the sounds that you call up with the macro oscillator here from Audible Instruments need to be triggered. Like this kick won't sound unless it receives here from the trigger. And then the question would be, if it was the type of sound that needed a shape, what you would do is just take a second envelope, say for example, our good old ADSR envelope from VCV. It has a gate input here. You could hook both up. Technically, trigger and gate are two different things. But there, you can, but trigger is basically like a boom, like a bang in pure data saying do it. And so that's what makes this kick drum go. So you need to send the gate to that because that will at least send an on message. Now the gate also has an off message when it leaves the square that it's on, so you can use it with an envelope. I'm just not thinking that we're going to need the envelope. I just wanted to show you that. Well, let's try it out anyway. Since this thing was sounding, this one could use an envelope. Remember, this was playing and I had to disconnect here. Maybe what I should do is connect that pluck up later using an envelope. But right now I can connect this audio-wise. We can try that again. Every now and then it likes to fight me. There we go. All right. So now let's press play and see what we hear. Okay, so with each square, we hear one single hit. Maybe let me speed it up. Somewhere around there. How about that? Now, the thing is, I don't really need this because, as you'll hear now, that envelope was longer, basically, than the kick's natural envelope that's part of its own sound. And, of course, I could play with some other knobs here and so forth. Now, what's happening is it's playing one hit per square because of the diagram in the square. You can, like, click on it, and then this square is now a double hit, still within the same space of time. Click, and sometimes it's like about dragging up. Okay, though, just sometimes clicking. It's weird selecting these, but after a while you get used to it. So we're just hearing red right now. Boom, bum, 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 bum. Now there's all sorts of, yeah, it does take a little bit. You keep clicking, you can get 5 hits, 6. And let's see how far it goes. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm not even going to count those. But you see what you can put in there. Now, I'm going to try and go back to just one again. Here, I'll initialize. That should go back to 1. No, it didn't do it. Here, I'm dragging upwards. When you play with that, there we go. When you play with this a little bit, eventually you kind of get used to it. It's kind of hard to describe. Dragging up, maybe a little left, a little right. It's maybe you have to drag in a counterclockwise or clockwise motion. Well, anyway, but you know, you click on it and you can basically set those different strike counts in there. Now, each of these squares also have 2 other controls. One is probability control. Another one is CV. The CV gets sent out here. So let me hook this up. Let's say volts per octave. Anything that receives a CV, you can send from there. Now, if we do it volts per octave, that should change the tuning of the drum a little bit. Let's see if that happens. I'm going to do it on this square here. I'm clicking. Yeah, it did, but it turned it up a lot. That's a little better. It's hard to get pitch control because this is really CV. You know what I mean? Let me actually initialize it. There we go. And then have this CV maybe control something else. Let's see here. FM. This will allow me to control timbre here. If I turn this up, it now will allow my CV messages to change, to basically bend the timbre up. Let's see that. In this sound, it just basically rings out longer. I think the pitch overall is high. Now CV is not going to control that. I'm just going to turn it down here. Oh, that's fine. That's right. This is coarse. This gets... Okay. So that's the idea. Now, at the same time, whatever I hook up to green is going to be starting here, sharing the triple hit and going up this way. Now, you do have other options here. Let's say, for example, I'm going to, excuse me while I zoom in with the operating system, but I want to be able to see the number. Let me see if we get this up to 5. There we go. It goes up here for the 5th hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's what happens when you change these amounts. Keep things simple. I'll go back to 4. You can do less than 4. You can go to 3. But let's do that. All right, and now here, this is on basically, it says default, but basically it's like following their paths. And we know that the 5th one's here, probably the 6, 7, 8. It's just basically red is going to go right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, depending on how many steps you want it to go. But you can change what it does here. Now it's random. And you see it's going all over the place now. Now, some things will have higher or lower probabilities based on the probability knob that you set for the square. So you see, this thing can work in all sorts of different ways. Okay, we didn't... Let me do this. Oh, okay, that was random walk, the one I just showed you. This random, the one in the middle, is basically going to pick one of the 4. Like, it's going to basically keep the same path that red was doing, and then it's just going to pick one of the 4. Now, what I could do is say, all right, this one's going to have, the probabilities are turned up largely here, so I'm going to turn down these and these. So now the probability is higher that it'll go to this and the first one as opposed to the others. Well, this one I didn't really turn down yet. Let me turn it down. There we go. But it is still somewhat random, so even though there's a higher probability of these two, it could definitely get stuck on one of these, you know. Less probability, but it can happen. Let's turn this down more and turn this down more in probability. Sometimes when it hits this square, it's not doing anything. And sometimes when it hits this square, it's not doing anything. I think the probability is that it randomizes it, but it's not a probability of whether it'll come to this one or not. It is still pretty much random, but when it comes to it, the probability is what's the chance that this will actually happen or it'll be a rest. So that's what the probability is doing there. I haven't played that with that enough yet, so I'm sorry. But anyway, we figured it out now. So this is the probability of this happening when it gets there or being a rest. That's why these two are sometimes rests. These are turned all the way up. So whenever it goes to these squares, we're getting sound. Okay, let me put the probabilities back up. But that is a way that you could have definite rests in your pattern. But as you see, unless you're going to just use one sound, patterns are frequently going to be shared. All right, so let me get back out of that type of zoom. All right, so let's add another instrument. Let's do cyan now. And sorry, something's bugging me here. This is supposed to be yellow in my color coding system. Okay, so now red is on this random within its path setting. The top one was the random walk, which means go all over the place. The random in the middle means just going down this path. But green is going in order, or cyan, I guess, what it really is. But let's set its gate first, right here. That is our snare. What I'm going to do is put the red back on set path. And so now they're both operating on a set path. Okay, let's see what we can add here to the CV of snare. Let's try this again. See what it does with snare. This timbre adjustment. Well, I could always find out by turning it up and then I'll know. I'm not hearing much of a difference. So maybe let's try. Let's initialize it. See what this is. Okay, that's cool. Let's move this over there. Initialize this. And now we set the CVs on the little knobs over here. I'll turn up the CVs on the single hits here. And I'm going to turn this one into a double or a triple. All right. So now let's hook this drum up. Sorry about that. Let's get a little more accurate here. There we go. And so this is going to be blue. And I'm going to hook up its CV. And in this case, I am going to hook it up to the volts per octave because that should change the tuning of this drum. That changed it a lot. That was too low. Make this a double here. Yeah. Now I'm going to initialize this. I'm going to do something other than pitch. CV for controlling pitch in this circumstance ain't quite working out. So see what I'll get with this. That'll be cool. So we do, in this case, get like a longer resonance. Now for sounds that don't respond like this, if you want to extend like their hold time, you would send this CV to maybe like the decay portion of an envelope generator. Now, just to show you, you can use something that is pitched, although separate from before, or how I had it before. I am going to put in an envelope here. Let's have it be a quick attack. Fairly short decay. Put the sustain level down, shorten the release time. Let's see how that works for our pluck. I'm going to go out from here. In here, fourth channel of the mixer. And the output of my envelope is going to govern just the fourth channel of the mixer, just the one that's getting the pluck. So let's hook up its trigger. That would go here. And we need to hook up the gate. That will go from destination to source because we're connecting two cables to the same output. Oh, what I'm confused. Oh, I have these gates hooked up wrong here. I think it's when I hooked up this gate cable, I connected to the wrong one. I was like, yeah, this is where it should be connected. No, gate, right here for purple. It's hard to see the color with the light flashing. Now we're on purple. We're on purple now. That's up here. Okay. It's easy to get lost a little bit here. No. There we go. Now it's CV. Well, let's pick what we're going to have CV do. Maybe pitch in this case, since it is a pitched instrument. Although with those little CV knobs, you're not going to get very precise control. Okay. All right, let me stop it for a moment. Yeah, and make sure we're reset. There we go. Now you see there's another option here. There's proportions listed at this side. So what I'm going to do is just isolate one of these. Let's just hear red. So without disconnecting cables, I can just turn down these channels on the mixer. So we'll just be hearing the kick drum now. So we can see what these things actually do. So we're going right to left about across the bottom row. All right, and it's 1-to-1 ratio. Well, that's what we've been hearing all along. When it gets to each block, double hit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, actually a septuplet there. So let's see what the proportions do. Let's say we go to 2 to 1. It changes its speed. It's twice as fast, basically. If I go back down to 1, so this, now the other ones have their own separate settings here, their speed ratios. So this would be moving at a faster tempo than the others, but 2 to 1, means it will kind of still line up. Let's try 3 to 1. 3 times as fast. Now, let's try 3 to 2. Let's hear how that sounds with the other instruments. If we do something like now 2 to 2, it's basically going to be the same as 1 to 1. Reset it. No, this is still off. No, it's on. Okay, so let's try. No, let's try having these guys walk all over the place. Or, no, random within their tracks first. So now they're just randomly going to different squares within their place. But all the probabilities are on, so there are no rests. Alright, this is, the subdivision as you're reading here. Set the quarter note. That's more like a whole note. These changed. No. everything I had has disappeared. I didn't play with this before, and I probably shouldn't have right now. Back to the beat division I had. Let's see here. Is this like a... Oh. No. I'm not sure what I did, but I lost all my settings. So be careful. This is probably something you want to set first. Although one thing that confuses me is that number was saying 2. This was saying 2 before. Trying to drag up. It's just moving the whole thing. Kind of thinking this is almost like selecting different programs, but I'm not sure how this moved from 2 to 1, so I'm not sure how to move it back. What is this? This is an indicator of what direction things go normally. You see where purple goes, blue goes, all that. But I lost the pattern I had, man. Oh, I see why. Because this is changing all squares. All right, so let's go back and let's do this again. Let's see here. We got 2 there. I remember I had like 7 here. There we go. Well, since I have them on this random stuff, now we should put them on a random walk where they'll just go just about anywhere. And that would be what you need to do to get the middle, or turn the number of squares, the number of steps that they cover, you need to turn that up. Okay, so we're going to go back down to their paths. But I'm going to turn each one up to 8. I believe I got this to 8. 9, no, 8. So now purple's on 8 steps. Purple's supposed to start here. Yeah, and it's doing 8 steps, the top 2 rows basically. I set everything to 8. Set this to 8. Oh, I messed with this again. That's all right. Okay, so I think you get the idea. So, reset. Careful where you stop because it may sustain that. There we go. But it is fun to play with and stuff like that. It's a great way to mix it up and just get like experimental results and so forth. But in any case, hopefully now you see how this stochastic sequencer grid works, and have some fun playing with it. It is real interesting. It's one of those things where you do relinquish a little bit of control because, you know, you got these 4 different instruments, so to speak, and they're kind of locked in. Well, no, they're not locked in, but they're going to overlap with one another and things like that. But you set this up right with the right kind of rhythms and stuff that play off of each other well. What you get is a certain amount of unity overall in what is happening, because a lot of the instruments are going over common ground. So you hear like similar rhythms come up here and there. And when they're in their path, it won't change. So what you set is what you get. When you randomize it, of course, then there's 2 degrees of freedom there. There's the random in the path, and then there's the random walk around, which is just about anywhere. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Please like, share, subscribe. Liking and leaving a comment and stuff like that really does help the videos get viewed, and it helps me out as a creator, so I'd appreciate that. But until next time, stay free and take care.